Impact was enjoyable tonight. A lot of tonight's episode was building up for next week for a TNA Sacrifice. Obviously, that's gonna be part of what next week's show is too. I mean, they're building it up. It's one of their B, C tier pay per views, but they're building it up like it's gonna be something special. And I like tonight's episode of Impact was enjoyable. Like I said, it started off with Brian Myers and Elijah having a match. It was a solid match. Alicia Edwards got involved, obviously, and then Elijah ended up getting a win in the match. The interference, it wasn't really no interference aside from Alicia Edwards, and then Eddie Edwards tried to get involved, but that didn't matter too much. Then you had the segment afterwards of the system jumping Elijah. Then you had Joe Hendry come out there and make the save, and he came out there with his guitar. It was a nice looking guitar too. It was a white guitar. So yeah, that was a fun opening segment. That was a fun way to get the show started. The interference made sense. They building up to this biggest storyline in TNA is the system right now, and that story that's going on. So a good segment. Then you had the Rascals and Ace Austin. They cut a promo, basically letting Wesley and Tyreek and Tyson know that even though we've had our differences in the past, we're ready and we're prepared for next week. Then later in the show, they'll have a match, and we'll get to that. Then you have First Class. They did their penthouse segment once again. AJ Francis is hilarious. He's a great talker. And then he trolled the fans into thinking Kevin Owens was going to come to TNA the whole time he was talking about Casey Navarro. It was hilarious. And then Steve Macklin, he came out there to interrupt. And then Casey Navarro thought Steve Macklin was talking to him, but he was like, I'm not talking to you, Scrappy Doo. I'm talking to AJ Francis. And that was hilarious. So AJ was like, give me 30 minutes and I'll see you out there in the ring. So that match was made, and we'll get to that later in the video. But then you have Savannah Evans versus Zara Brookside, and if you go back to a few weeks ago in the Battle Royal, there were the last two in there, but Cora Jade made Zara Brookside lose, helping Savannah Evans get the win. And then it was a point in the match where, and then it was a good match too. It wasn't too long, wasn't too short. They did a good job displaying both of them and what they can do. And then you got to a point where Savannah Evans looked like she had injured her knee or something like that. And Zara Brookside, she didn't take advantage of it because she's a loving, caring person. She want to make sure she's all right. But Savannah Evans took advantage of that. She clearly wasn't hurt. You could tell, as a viewer, you could tell that Savannah Evans wasn't hurt and she was just faking it. And she was able to take advantage of Zara Brookside that way. Savannah Evans ended up getting a win. But it was a fun match, and Zara Brookside definitely learned her lesson from that. But like I said, it made sense. It was a fun match. Savannah Evans got the win, but I think Zara Brookside has a bright future with TNA. Then throughout the show, they showed the Elegance brand being the personal consigliere for Spitfire. And then eventually, I forget the guy's name that's with the Elegance brand, but he dressed up as like a janitor or something to help save the Elegance brand and take them, get them away from Spitfire. So those segments they've been doing have been kind of cool. So good start to the show so far. Then you have John Skyler talking about how he's going to take out Mike Santana, this and that. Buddy, you barely wrestle. You're not taking out Mike Santana. And then Mike Santana, he came out there, and it was a quick match. Mike Santana got the win pretty easily. I feel like this match was a waste of time, and they didn't really do anything. Like, I know they're trying to build the story up, but it was the segments that actually built the story. Like, this match did nothing for it. Then he hit the spinning block on the other guy that was out there, who was Hodge, if I'm not mistaken. So that did nothing for the story as far as I'm concerned. But then, after that, you had AJ Francis and Steve Macklin. They had their match. Obviously, Casey Navarro, he got involved. He's always going to have AJ Francis back. And AJ Francis, he was throwing around Steve Macklin. I thought AJ was going to win. I felt like he should have won this match. And that knee strike that he hits, then he goes over the top rope. That's a really cool move. I love that move from him. And then his spear being the TFL, the tackle for loss, with him being a former football player, it fits his character so much. He was only able to get a 2 count off of it. In the Northern Armory, they came out there to cause a distraction. And at first, you don't know, is it to distract AJ Francis or is it to distract Steve Macklin? But AJ Francis, he did end up getting the win. I'm tripping. But AJ Francis ended up getting the win because Steve Macklin got distracted. And he was heated at the Northern Armory, specifically Eric Young. And Eric Young is letting him know, like, I'm just trying to help you. I want you to be a part of this. I never turned my back on you. Because, I mean, technically he didn't. So it kind of makes sense that he would want him in this group. And then after that, you had a backstage segment with Elijah, Joe Hendry, Matt Hardy, and Leon Slater. They're all backstage with Ryan Nemeth, and he was so excited that him and his brother get to be on the team because he thought that because 3 of those spots were already filled up, and he thought that it was going to be him. Leon Slater wasn't originally part of the team last week when the 10-man tag team match became official. And then Matt Hardy, he had to call Nick Nemeth, and he was like, had to tell him that it's just that Leon Slater is the other guy that we recruited along with you, not your brother. And then Ryan, who was backstage, he was visibly upset, seen crying, had to leave. It was unfortunate for Ryan Nemeth, man. But yeah, I think he had probably helped Nick Nemeth and them get the win against the system in that 10-man tag team match. But it was a funny segment. And then I already talked about the Steve Macklin stuff. Oh, he got into it with Frankie Kazarian too, so they'll probably do that match next week. They get into it backstage, and then they'll get into it next week on the win Frankie Kazarian to cash in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet championship trophy that he won. But it probably won't be anytime soon. Then you have Moose and Obafemi come face to face for the final time before NXT next week, which is going to be in Madison Square Garden. This was interesting because Moose had a lot of security guards out there, and basically the promo segment was pretty good. And then he told the security guards, jump Obafemi if you want to be part of the system. So they all jump him, and Obafemi takes out all of them. Now, I get that Obafemi is a strong guy, but when you have 10 to 12 security guards and it's just one guy taking all of them out, not a big fan of that. It's Obafemi, and obviously he's going to win next week. And then it took for 10 to 12 security guards, the system, like everybody in the system, and then Moose to take him out. So it's like Moose speared him and he came out on top of both titles. But how is it supposed to be believable that he's going to win if it took all that? Like, at least make it believable that it's like, make it like it's 60-40, that 60% Oba wins, 40% Moose wins. This looks like a 90-10 right now. It's a 90% chance of Obafemi winning this match the way that they've built it up. And obviously Obafemi should probably win, but think about those statistics. If you made this a bit closer where you had Obafemi come out on top, or you didn't take out 10 to 12 security guards and 5 members of the system, this will look a bit different. Even if the goal still is to let Obafemi win, that's not the problem. It's so obvious that he's gonna win the match. Fraxium, they cut a good promo backstage. I enjoyed it. Then you had the Rascals and Ace Austin. They faced the Northern Armory, led by Eric Young. And then Tyreek, Tyson, and Wesley. I don't know why I said their names in that order. Wesley should be first. Anyways, they came up there to cause a distraction, and the Northern Armory ended up getting the win. It was a solid match. And then I'm interested to see what their match ends up being next week. I was surprised nothing happened after the match. It would have made sense if something transpired after the match between the two teams, but nothing happened. Then you had Masha Slamovich cutting the promo, which was interrupted by Cora Jade and Tessa Blanchard. She came out there to attack Masha. Then Tessa Blanchard, Cora Jade, they both just jumping Masha Slamovich. Then Li Chi Ying, she came out there to save Masha. So now you get a tag team match. Pretty simple. Ying has a match against Tessa Blanchard. Cora Jade has a match against Masha Slamovich. And put them together, they having a match the next day. It makes a lot of sense. And all four, I think, are very talented women in their own right. So I think it's going to be a fun tag team match. It could be bad since they don't have any chemistry as being a tag team, but I hope it is a good match. Then, I didn't mention this, but Mike Santana, after his match, Mustafa Ali wanted him to take a drug test. He wanted him to pee in a cup. And then later in the show, Tasha Steele, she was backstage going off on some guy for bringing her some bad coffee. And then Mike ran into the guy. He was like, give me the cup and I'll take care of this. So they went into the bathroom with both cups. And later on, it was found out that he passed the drug test. He tested negative. And then the coffee that Ali had, he wasn't a big fan of it. So we likely know what was in that cup. And then you had the main event segment. It was the Colognes and the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys carried this match. Like, it wasn't a good match. Like, the commentators talk about the Colognes being experienced. Nothing matches the Hardy Boys. Like, even the match the Hardy Boys had with No Quarter Catch Crew, that was actually a good match. And I think No Quarter Catch Crew actually did a solid job in that match. But the Colognes, they've just never been that type of tag team. I've never been sold on the Colognes as being a great tag team. And this match wasn't good. And then I wish it would have just ended with the Hardys getting the win, but then you had the system come out there and attack them before it could drag on any longer. I mean, I'm glad that a bad match ended earlier, but you should have just let the Hardys get the win so they could have some. It would have made sense, or if the Colognes win, they have a reason to challenge for the tag titles, then you can do the match again. And the Hardys proved that one time was just a fluke. But then Leon Slater, Joe Hendry, Elijah, they came out there after the system came out there to attack them. So then you got all the teams staring each other down. Santino, he come out there and he was like, this 10-man tag team match at Sacrifice next week, it's going to be in a steel cage. You know how crazy it is? All 10 of these men in a steel cage. That's going to be insane. But like I said, tonight's episode of Impact was enjoyable. It definitely wasn't the best episode I've ever seen. It was far from the worst. It had a lot of good moments, had a lot of bright spots. I'll give this show was rated a 7.5 out of 10. This was very enjoyable. It's a step up from what they did the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks y'all know I wasn't a fan of. But this week, they stepped it up once again. 7.5 out of 10. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Did you enjoy tonight's Impact? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? But that's it, y'all. Peace out.